Welcome back to another podcast episode where we help aspiring developers get jobs and junior developers grow. This episode, we're going to be jumping into SheCodes. I invited 3 graduates on from SheCodes, all with different experiences, and we're going to dive into what they think about it. So we'll get started with our normal intros, just like we do. Diamond, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, I'm Diamond. I finished the SheCodes basic workshop, and I had a totally awesome experience with it.
Really cool. When do you finish it?
The first week of June.
Okay, first week of June of 2020? This year. Okay, so very recently.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to do it?
Well, I decided to enrich my skills because I am in the digital marketing space really heavily and the writing platform. And I saw the scalability that comes with coding. And I was just constantly looking for these programs. None of them I could really understand or stay engaged with. And I found SheCodes specifically catered to women in general. So of course I was drawn to that, and I just fell in love with the program totally. I've actually purchased the SheCodes React, which is the high-end program. The last 5 months, I went ahead and made that jump because of the program. So yeah.
That's really cool. Wait, so you finished the SheCodes Basic in June of this year, and you're currently doing the React?
Yeah, I'm working towards that, yes, now. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fun. React's my favorite framework, so I hope that goes well for you. I know it can be challenging at times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, cool. How about you, Wanyoung?
Hi, so I enrolled in the Basics workshop back in February, and then I finished the Plus and the React by the second week of April of this year. And I had never actually been coding before, and I wanted to kind of try it out, get my feet wet. And because it was self-paced and I had a lot of free time on my hands, I was able to finish all 3 workshops in a matter of 6 weeks. And
wow.
I thought it was really great, but I have some ideas on how it could be improved.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear all of it. So why do you decide to dabble in it? Was it just to learn it and see if you like it, or did you have an end goal?
I think that I had a goal of learning enough coding that I could become employed as a developer, and I learned some intermediate skills with SheCodes, but I think I still have a long ways to go. And I am actually furthering my education by enrolling in a bootcamp. So yeah, that's my end goal, to become employed as a developer.
Okay, really cool. I hope you get that position.
Thank you.
How about you, Emily?
All right. I'm Emily. I took all of the workshops. I started in January of this year, like pretty much first of the year. And then I finished all 4. So the Pro, React, and then the responsive workshop by mid-April, because it was also self-paced. And so I was able to get it done a little bit faster than planned. And I really liked it. It was really helpful. I had no background in coding whatsoever. I've worked in physical therapy for the past 7 years, and so I'm in the middle of like a career transition. And I was thinking about going the data route and saw like something about coding being helpful for it, and so I tried it, and then I really liked it, and so I went further and did all of it.
Okay, really cool. So everyone graduated this year? Okay, awesome. I think you're going to have a better run of the job market versus last year. So I'm wishing anyone luck that is trying to become a developer. But all right, let's jump into it. So like I said, we're all going to talk over each other. I promise you for the first 10 minutes. But why do you choose this program?
Well, one of the reasons Diamond said too, it's like geared towards women. So that was pretty encouraging. It's kind of all of us are, sticking together to, grow in the tech world. And honestly, the price isn't too bad either compared to like some of the other workshops that I looked into. Some are like 15 to like 30 grand, and that was like way out of my price range, I'd have to say.
Why? I would argue that's way out of a lot of people's price ranges, but they still go into massive amount of debt for them. So
yeah.
Okay.
I would say I was totally drawn to the time frame because I didn't want to commit to like something that was super long, multiple months at first, because I was kind of scared. I've always been terrified of the idea of coding. I never thought I could do it. And the basics program is only 3 weeks. So I'm like, oh, this is something simple. I can give it a shot. And I'm glad that I did. So that was the selling point for me.
Why were you terrified of coding?
I just always imagined, a lot of math, even though the math and coding is totally different. And I just figured I never had like a very strong analytical mind. I'm more on the creative side. So writing and drawing and things like that, I just didn't see that in my future with coding. But turns out, like, I don't know, I figure I was able to learn to write in a new way. So versus writing how I normally write as a copywriter, now I can write code. And that's still awesome to me. So
I wonder how elegant your code is going to be. I wonder how much you're going to focus on that. But it's quite a bit. Well, I asked just because I was afraid too. I was really intimidated when I would see like a software engineer meet them. I'm like, they're way smarter than me. I can't do this. Don't I have to go back to school to like get a CS degree? And I had a psychology degree. Like I love interacting with people and learning about people, but I'm like, I'm not smart enough for this. So, and I think a lot of people are like that. I think a lot of people are intimidated by coding. I would imagine other people are going to have your backgrounds and fears of coding. I guess we'll dive into it later. And I'm kind of curious. I bet they probably focus on alleviating a lot of those fears and make you more confident and stuff like that. But we'll dive into that later. Why did you choose it, Wanyoung?
SheCodes was actually the most affordable workshop that I could find. I was also looking at boot camps, and compared to like a $30,000 boot camp, paying a few $100 for SheCodes was really in my price range. And then I was really taken by their mission to help women code, and how they're also trying to help women in developing countries code. I mean, I'm not in a developing country, but I still thought that was a very benevolent mission. And then the time frame, how they allow you to finish the workshop in a matter of weeks as opposed to months. I thought that was very doable. So it was breaking down a challenging goal of coding into achievable steps. So yeah, those are the reasons why I chose SheCodes.
Okay. So when you say that they had kind of opened up opportunities in developing countries, do you feel like they focused on opening up those opportunities in those types of countries, or was that just a matter of chance?
I think it's something that they just started to do. They're trying to find women in these developing countries who want to learn how to code, and they're paying for these women's workshops.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, they're going to use like some of the tuition from like people who like pay for it to help donate towards women in those developing countries.
That's a really cool mission. I can see why a lot of people would really connect with that type of mission. I would be curious, do any of you know if it's a for-profit or non-for-profit company? You don't have to.
I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting, because maybe I'll explore this a little bit more. I would be really interested in learning what their end goal is, why they started it, and really getting a better feel for the mission. So what'd you learn?
A lot. So it was HTML, CSS, JavaScript, React, Bootstrap, using APIs, how to use GitHub, and also just like responsive web design.
Okay.
So a lot of front end focus.
So in terms of like Bootstrap, do you feel like they leaned on Bootstrap, or did they teach a lot of custom CSS?
I think it was like a combination.
If you had to give percentages, what would that be?
I don't know.
You probably haven't thought of this, but these are.
I haven't. I know they taught us a lot of like how to use like CSS for like styling and making like custom variables, to maybe like 50-50, maybe leaning a little bit more on Bootstrap for a couple things like buttons and nav bars and stuff, but it wasn't like all Bootstrap.
Okay.
Or like columns and like the grid layouts and stuff.
All right, that makes sense. How about you two? Similar? Any differences?
Yeah, I've learned a lot more simple things because I'm not as experienced as the other two where they are. So mainly I focused on HTML elements, CSS selectors, making little landing pages, and slight JavaScript. Not too much. I haven't got too much into that yet, but I will be with the course I just bought. So yeah, just a little here and there.
What was the coolest JavaScript thing that you learned?
Let's see. I would say I have to think about that. I did not like JavaScript too much, to be honest. I didn't like it too much, but it was definitely cool to bring like animations to like animating buttons and things like that to my landing pages. That was pretty cool because I never thought I could do something like that. It took me forever to implement, but yeah, JavaScript is not really something I like too much. So.
Well, I'm glad you know that, because sometimes people will sign up for like an entire coding bootcamp. They realize it's like 80% JavaScript and they don't like JavaScript and they're just kind of stuck with it. So I think that's a really healthy thing that you figured that out. Do you feel like, it sounds like you might explore, more programs in the future through SheCodes. Do you feel like you want to lean a little bit more on front end, HTML, CSS, styling, building out? Yeah, go ahead.
I would love to personally, but I also want to challenge myself because I know if I practice more and more, I will get it. So I just had to take that mental block out of my mind and actually push forward because I would love to do both front end and back end. So.
Oh, cool. Okay. So yeah, that might be challenging. Yeah, full disclosure, like I hated CSS, like absolutely hated it. And I almost I quit my job to try to become a developer. And I'm like, then I realized I like front end, so I have to learn CSS. And I'm like, what did I just do? And it took me a while to really, it took a while for it to really grow on me. But I think JavaScript might grow on you. I find that most people hate it. And then there's a certain point it just clicks. And you don't hate it anymore. You actually love it. And you're I think a lot of people are proud because it's such a quirky language. It's actually, I would say it's not the simplest language to learn either. So when you do things start clicking, I think, people should feel proud of that. But you'll see. So how about you, Wanyoung? What did you learn?
Yeah, so everything that Emily described, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, APIs, GitHub, and React, using these languages and skills to design a web page, weather app, and actually 2 weather apps. And for me, I actually really enjoyed HTML and CSS. They were pretty easy. But JavaScript was a little challenging, but I think it's really cool to finally master JavaScript and be able to change like the inner HTML, like when you search something in the search bar and then it changes the text on the screen. I thought that was the coolest part about JavaScript.
I've never heard someone say that. That's cool. So I'm actually, I'm really excited to, like, I don't think I'm going to do a follow-up podcast episode, but I'm really curious what, especially you two, are going to think of JavaScript down the road as you get a little bit more comfortable with it too. Emily, you mentioned that you also learned APIs. Do you feel like that was a pretty prevalent thing in their workshops?
Yeah, because he also, in the video lectures, went over like how to look for like an API and like how to learn how to use it too. So it wasn't just like, here, use this API and get this information. It was more, you can use these APIs, but you can also, do a lot of research and deep dive into like whatever project you're planning on working on. Do research to find what's going to give you information and see what is going to, one, for fun projects, be free, or like easy to use and have like good documentation, because you don't want to spend like $100 a month on like an API if you're just doing it for fun too. So that was like another thing he kind of emphasized. These ones are free that you're using, so learn how to use those ones.
Yeah, that's smart. It's efficient. So, So it sounds like you had really learned how kind of APIs work and how to connect with them and how to navigate through them, how to read documentation potentially. And if you haven't, maybe you will in the future. So how much have all three of you like really, Diamond, I know you've kind of just started, but how much has everyone really dove into the back end? Building out an API? Not much?
Not much yet.
Do you feel like... Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say I'm planning on learning more. I actually, I'm also going to be starting another boot camp soon, but this one's going to be a full stack boot camp. So it'll be diving into like MongoDB, Node.js, and Express.js.
Okay. Do you feel like... Why is that? Why are you joining another coding boot camp?
A few reasons. I honestly wish I knew a little bit more, like kind of going into the boot camp or the workshop, because I kind of relied on it a little bit too much. And then I finished it, and then I was kind of like, okay, what do I do now? And so it was a lot of, okay, all these jobs that, you're applying for as an entry level or junior developer are requiring all these different skills. And you're like, I don't have these at all. And I've talked to hiring managers that mentioned some things for me to look into. So I spent a lot of time doing that. And I didn't spend as much time building as I should have. So I kind of lost some of my, like what I've learned. And I got really into building again, but I feel like I just made myself so dizzy and like disoriented trying to absorb so much information that I like kind of got myself all discombobulated. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this boot camp, reinforce what I've already learned. And then I was already planning on going and learning something about like the back end and more about databases. And so this was just like a good opportunity for that. And part of that too is I was trying to learn all those skills because I was unemployed during all of this. And so it's like, okay, you've got that financial pressure and all these entry level developers that are all applying for these jobs. Because you go to a job application, there's like 300 applicants already, and it's been like 4 hours.
Sounds about right.
So I finally like got a job in physical therapy to take like the financial pressure off.
Good.
But that way I'm able to like refocus myself and start this boot camp and just get into a good mindset and fall in line with a good company too. That way I don't
Okay.
have to panic search.
Yeah, like a fire under your butt can be healthy to an extent.
Yeah.
But I've
Until it's
definitely, yeah, until it's exactly. And I've experienced that when I was trying to become a developer. And I honestly, like, I was hopping from like home to home, just like affording like lower and lower rents, just to be able to live, put food on the table. And it makes it much, much harder. I would have became a software engineer much faster if I didn't have to worry about that. And I think this is kind of a good message because sometimes you have to put your ego aside just temporarily. If you do experience like a long-term job deficit where you can't get that developer job, like sometimes you work part-time, sometimes you even work fast food just to be able to pay the bills. And it can alleviate a lot of the stress. And when you're less stressed, you're a little bit more open, grounded, and you can retain more. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So know exactly what you're talking about. I'm glad you found some relief. So it sounds like, I think it makes complete sense why you're doing you're doing another coding bootcamp on top of it. So it kind of sounds like this is a really front-end heavy focused program. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So when it says like API, is it really more talking about like connecting with other external APIs, not building your own?
Correct. Yeah. So it's not so much as, like you said, building one. It's just finding a usable API and knowing how to like extract information from it and connect it to whatever you're in the process of building.
Okay, that makes sense. So I want to say just a couple things, and I, of course, have more questions. But one thing I want you to realize, like you mentioned this idea of like hundreds of developers, like within 4 hours applying to the same position. That could be really scary and intimidating. It's like, I'm paying for this program, had some ambition with getting a job, and now like I'm competing with like hundreds of people. This is scary. And I want to like really emphasize out of those hundreds of people, because I've talked about this many, many times, but maybe 60 to 100 like doesn't have a GitHub profile or any source control knowledge whatsoever, and like 50 to 75 don't even have a portfolio, and a lot of people within that 300, they're still developing their social skills and very awkward in interviews and not confident. And like, there are so many things where like you see that number 300, a lot of them start getting weeded out very quickly for like really simple stuff that you can work on over time. And I think soft skills, it can take a long time to like really build that up, build better habits to replace worse habits. That's something a coding boot camp can't really teach, and you have to work at that on your own. But a lot of these technical skills, I want to assure you, like a lot of junior engineers can't even like complete a simple FizzBuzz test. It's like a really basic JavaScript or any language you want to use. It's a really simple test. They haven't even built a landing page. They don't even know how to like position a navigation or, hopefully this is encouraging, because I think a lot of people, a lot more than you think, is going to get weeded out. And the second thing is, if this is a front-end program, I think it's important for people to know if they have this misconception for some reason that it's strong at the back end, that's not good. That's not going to be good for SheCodes. That's not going to be good for them. That might mean, they go into this with knowledge like, okay, this is going to make me really strong in the front end, and I'm going to need to supplement on the back end. And that's okay. I would encourage, and I'm trying to encourage people, like, go the self-taught route first. Supplement as much as you can, pay as little as you can, especially in this economy. Inflation is rising. The entry-level market is really saturated. Like, be smart about this process, and you'll eventually get a job. It's just, Emily, as you said, when you have this like growing financial pressure, makes you make really dumb decisions, and it scares you, and it kills your confidence, and a lot of things happen from that. So just want to provide some encouraging words, especially for anyone listening or watching. But okay, so let's dive a little bit more into this program. I think I have a feel for like what it's teaching. It feels front end heavy, feels strong in the front end. Can you kind of give me a feel for like, how are the workshops structured? Is it like a lesson and then you do some exercises, or how are these workshops structured?
So it's like broken down into like weeks. So that way, like it's easier for you to follow if you've got like a lot going on, but like it's self-paced too. So you can go as fast as you want. but it's different modules and different lessons of videos that you watch, and then it provides like some documentation at the bottom of how to work through a problem, and then each lesson typically has like some sort of challenge that you have to complete, so that way you're kind of reinforcing what you just learned. And then every week you have some sort of homework assignment that you have to build and submit, and then they'll do a code review. And if there's a problem with your assignment, then they'll send you a message saying, hey, you need to fix this. Or if it's valid, you'll get the green box and a check mark saying good job. And it eventually builds up to like those big projects.
Okay. Diamond and Wong, I don't know if they do this in basics, but can either of you talk about the projects?
Yeah, go ahead.
You go.
For basics, you're just learning HTML, CSS, and basic JavaScript, like doing alerts. So you build a landing page for your first project, your final project, I mean. And every week you do small components, like they have like a certain web page that you're supposed to mimic in terms of the CSS and the HTML. And that's what you do as homework for 1 week. And then you eventually build up to building your own landing page.
So when you say mimic, are they giving you like maybe a Photoshop document, or do you just look at a website and try to recreate it?
Yeah, you look at a website and then you try to recreate the font and the CSS elements.
That's a good strategy. I like that they do that. Okay. So yeah, what are the projects? I guess past basics.
So for Plus, which is like the more like the intermediate level HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you're supposed to design a weather application. It's kind of a web page actually, but when you search for a city, you'll be able to find the weather, like the temperature and the forecast for that city, and then find the current location. And that's pretty fun. And then for the React workshop, it's pretty similar, but you design a weather application using React.
And then they also just came out with an option too, where you can build like a dictionary app with the React as well. I think they added that on at some point. So that one was kind of fun. You got to do like 2 projects in the one course.
Okay. So the weather app connects to obviously an external API, gathers that data. And then the React, that dictionary, does that connect to some third-party API dictionary website? Oh, it does?
Yeah, we used a couple of them. So one for like the information, like the definitions and stuff. And then you were also like able to add like images of like the word too at the bottom. And so we used like a second API for that.
Okay. Second API. Okay, that can be tricky, kind of integrating 2 APIs and figuring out how to work with both sets of data, which might be very different as well. Okay, so I definitely think my next question is, I want to get a feel for this because I'm going to butcher this. Diamond, you completed the basics and you're going into the React one, right?
Yes.
Okay. And Emily, you've completed the Plus one, which includes React. Cool. And Wanyoung, which one did you finish? Remind me again.
I did all 3. So I did the basics, the Plus, and the React, but not the responsive.
But not the responsive. And so
Yeah.
I thought the React was included in the Plus. Oh, Plus React. Got it. Okay. So with that context in mind, like so far, what's the coolest thing that you built that you're most proud of?
I think my React application came out looking the most streamlined, and
What does that mean?
like it looks most polished in terms of the appearance with the CSS, and going back, I actually wish that I could improve my my JavaScript application for the Plus workshop, but I haven't really got around to doing that.
Okay. What's holding you back from that?
I mean, I think it's just laziness. I mean, it looks fine, but it could, if it was something that I wanted to submit for a portfolio, for instance, I think I could make it just a little bit more polished.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you've done that before, so that's good. And sometimes it's kind of hard to do. Sometimes you just lose motivation and momentum with that project. And sometimes it even makes sense just to move on to a new project that excites you and that you are going to finish, but it might, in the old project, maybe it was vanilla JavaScript holding it together, and then maybe you include React in your very next project to showcase. So yeah, you can decide what to do with that. Okay, how about you, Diamond?
I made a landing page for my personal website, so that was pretty cool because I'm an author and an illustrator, so I wanted to code my own websites in a sense and not use Wix, the platform I use now. So I'm working on that. I'm still tweaking it, but it's just nice to have that financial freedom to not have to depend on a website host provider and just make my own stuff. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
That's rewarding too, because I think a lot of people lose motivation because they're just building this cookie cutter template. They're building a project that they think employers are going to care about that you don't really care about. You're like, I don't even care about React. I'm just using React because employers want to know about it. But I think when you start getting into, I'm going to build my website because I'm an author and I want to get out of Wix, and I think it's really cool to build my own website. I don't have to pay them money. Maybe I find cheaper hosting. You start to build applications that solve the problem that you specifically need. So maybe that doesn't mean building this website means you should learn React and Redux and all these complicated libraries. Maybe it just means I probably need to get good with landing pages. I maybe need to do a little research with conversion and effectiveness and maybe dive into UX a little bit. But when you end up with a project like that, that's bringing you in potential money, that's rewarding. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you disagree, but that's perfect.
Yes, totally.
So that's really cool. Keep going with that. So I think I kind of want to sum up what I've learned from this. And before I do, I think I want to do one more question. Two more questions. Do you feel like let me word this because this is a little bit differently. So you have basic plus React and Pro. Do you feel like with what you've learned so far that you can get a job as a developer? It's always
Possibly.
A good question to ask. Okay. Elaborate.
Potentially. So I've been on my own doing stuff on my own for the last couple months and applying to jobs. And I've had a couple interviews and they've gone well, but it's just kind of come down to experience too, which I get, but there's also still so much more that you can do past what you learn. And so one of the things I kind of wish I did while I was in the workshop is kind of reinforce what I was learning. So doing JavaScript challenges or problem solving as it was all fresh. Because then, you go out on your own and start trying to build projects and you're like, what do I do? I don't have this guide telling me what to do. And they also have a Slack chat, which is helpful. So you can ask for help if you need it. You can't really do that in real life on your own. You can use Stack Overflow, but I wish that I kind of looked into things a little in more detail before I finished and reinforced things more. But it also I feel like it taught me how to learn too. I feel like they gave us like fairly good expectations of what the world is like when it comes to breaking into like a developer role. And even when you finish like all of the workshops, he even says like, you might be ready for a junior role, or, you might be ready for an internship or need to go do another boot camp, depending on how you feel or what role you're trying to get into. So I think part of it is just like time and patience, and just also reinforcing it constantly and building as much as you can, which I did not do right away.
Okay. How about you two?
I also think that I could potentially get a web developer role, but the job search has been a little tough for me. I was only able to find one position that didn't ask for like 2 years of prior experience. It asked for 6 months to 1 year of experience, and I was able to kind of stretch my time in SheCodes to say, oh, that was like 6 months ago. And I applied for it, but I did not get the position. So I think I have to probably build more projects for my portfolio. And I mentioned that I am going into another boot camp, which goes over it goes over React. And I'm expecting to definitely reinforce my skills there. And then it teaches you how to build mobile applications. And then it also teaches you the backend like Mongo, Express, and Node.js. So
do you want to say
full stack?
Go ahead.
It's a full stack boot camp. So I'm pretty excited for it. I start next week.
Do you
Which one are you doing?
Yeah, I'm curious.
It's new camp.
Me too.
Oh, wow.
I start next week too.
So Ludo and I talk all the time, and I think he has a lot of good intentions, and a lot of people in my community have gone to new camp. So what I'm going to recommend, I usually don't shut out my own videos. I think you can be very successful in the job market with this program, with a couple of a bit of supplementation. And I think a lot of new camp graduates, when they go into it with that knowledge, end up being really strong candidates. So like I said, I don't shut out my own programs. I highly recommend you check out the new camp video, because we also talk about like what you should supplement. And I also had a conversation with Ludo about all of this, and I challenged him about all of this. It's a really good conversation, but I highly encourage you to watch those 2 videos, and I think both of you are going to do really well going to that program. So it's pretty cool. Small world, I guess.
I know.
How about you, Diamond?
Well, my program, of course, isn't as advanced as the other ones, so no, I wouldn't feel comfortable or feel like I could get a developer job, but it has worked wonders in the field that I am in, because it's adding, I can say that, hey, I can do basic HTML, do basic CSS, and that has made me stand out with that competitive edge as a writer. So I have gotten jobs from taking this program alone. So I will say, I don't think this is something that would definitely guarantee a developer job, even if you finish all the way through. I would say this is more like a introduction. Like, I've seen people, you can look at the reviews, many people do get front-end developer jobs, but they're often in other countries. And I don't know what the aptitude or the level, the standard is in other countries, but in America, I feel like this alone wouldn't be enough to get a developer job. I do feel that way, even though I love the course, but it's a good introduction to get into something else like a boot camp. So,
well, okay, before I summarize, I have one more question. what would you improve with the program? What would you change?
One thing that came to mind recently is going over testing, like official testing and like writing actual tests for the program, because I have no idea how to do that.
Okay.
And so I've had conversations with people before, and they're like, he told me that if he met like a junior developer that had some sort of idea about like how to write a test and testing strategies, he would be really excited. So I think that would be helpful to learn. He kind of like brushes over it a little bit, but it doesn't go into too much depth with it. I feel like that would be beneficial because I plan on learning it. I've already kind of looked into like a little course on it to start later in the line if I need it. But I think that would be helpful if they started kind of implementing that more.
All right. That's good feedback. What else?
I would add a career services program. So obviously a lot of women are looking for jobs, and I would allow like a channel to interact with employers where they post jobs and then you can apply to them, and then you can also speak with developers or engineers and receive feedback on how you can improve your portfolio or practice interviews with them. And actually, I think this is what New Camp has. So this is a reason why I am joining New Camp.
Okay. How about you, Diamond? What would you improve?
I would say that there could definitely be a benefit with more videos and like challenge or homework options, because you only get the one video explaining something. It's usually maybe at the longest 25 minutes. But if you don't get it in your head in that one video, you're kind of like, you have to go to the Slack channel and like ask around. You might be kind of confused. And some people learn with different learning styles. And also, more projects will be nice to increase your portfolio. You really only have the one project a week that you can put in your portfolio. And I don't know if that's enough to be competing with all these people who have been in the industry for a while. So, yeah.
I think that's completely fair. Okay, I think I got a good feel for this program. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize it, and I want you to correct me. Anything that I'm wrong, just feel free to correct me at the end. So it feels like one thing I really like about SheCodes, and we talked about earlier, I love that they're trying to push this in developing countries, in countries that they feel like needs this most. I think a lot of people can get behind that mission. That's awesome. And I think that's why a lot of people probably join this program. So it feels like based on the price, it becomes a very accessible program for people that might not have the resources to be able to learn something like this. Now, in the long run, I want to encourage people, you can learn all this for free. You can, but it's, a lot out there. You don't know how to structure it. You don't really know what you need to learn, but all this is out there for free, 100%. So the fact that, they're keeping the price low, given what they teach, I think it's very reasonable. Some coding boot camps, they 100% feel like scams. They get like people into, it's kind of predatory in nature, where a lot of people they want out of their current industry and they want to get a job. So they're like, just sign this contract. You won't owe, $20,000 till a couple years down the road. Then you find out because you had to take your part-time job, it triggers the contract, and now you owe like $2,000 every month. And you're like, how do I pay this? A lot of larger coding boot camps do this, and they're not transparent about it. So I figured I wouldn't have to deal with this program. This program kind of feels pretty honest. It feels pretty straightforward. Feels like it has a good mission. Feels like it's pretty, it's really for the individual, and they're kind of looking out for you, and it feels more accessible. I would be curious if they do any advertisements, like you're going to get a position from something like this, because it feels like a consensus from this call is like you're probably going to have to supplement. And that's an okay thing to do, especially when you're pricing it this low. Maybe the pro plan, because it sounds like no one here took the pro plan, maybe that will get you a little bit closer. But kind of just from what I'm hearing, it's self-paced, not a lot of videos. And sometimes, Diamond, as you said, you get one video, and then if you don't understand the concept, like, what do you do? And usually you'll have like supplemental resources that a program will provide. Like if you're trying to learn React and you can't understand it from that video, a lot of programs take 2 full weeks to teach React. Maybe they link to like free Facebook documentation, and they link to other tutorials, or they link to other videos, stuff like that. It feels like if people are struggling to learn that concept, they need to provide more resources. They can do that for free in their budget. Actually, that is one question that I have. Do they provide like additional resources that you should look up?
Mm-hmm. They even built some like cheat sheets for like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that they have like posted for free like on their website. And then they even have like design sources too. So they've got like gradients, and they teach you like these tools, like the color picker tool for like styling. You like this color on this page, click it, copy the CSS, and get it over.
Okay.
So they're pretty good about that.
That's good. Okay, so it sounds like they have something to supplement. Do they ever kind of advertise like you're going to get a job from this as kind of like a complete solution?
Yes and no. I mean, they're advertising that people get hired based off of like completing the workshop, and like, they have us complete reviews every time you finish a workshop. But if they have someone that took their course and then gets hired, and they share that with the company, then they'll share that too as like, hey, this person got hired. So of course, from my memory, I don't think they're like guaranteeing 100% like hiring. I could be wrong, but I know that if they get someone that gets hired, they're like, oh, hey, look at this person. They did this and now they're hired. And so
I guess that's where I'm a little bit concerned, is because they are highlighting their testimonials of people that have gotten jobs. They are highlighting people that have gotten hired. And if they're putting that in front of you, it almost feels like it could be a little bit misleading to think that SheCodes is going to be the solution to you finding that job. And it feels like SheCodes is more of a solution to breaking into tech and getting a really good introduction into tech.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's why we do these episodes, to kind of dig into stuff like that. But I don't know. It doesn't, other than that, I don't have any too big concerns. I wish they would encourage you to work on more projects. And I'm talking about side projects, not ones where they're holding your hand and telling you build this. I'm talking about like, okay, so, what are you passionate about? Like, what problems in your old industry do you want to solve? And like, if they can integrate that into a program like this, I think that'd be very beneficial. But they have no career services. They don't have any mentors to review code, from what it sounds like, correct?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay. Elaborate.
Well, like, they don't have like the career services and stuff. And they're not really like doing code reviews, but they'll review like your work that you submit pretty much, but they're not doing like reviews of projects, if that answers the question.
Okay, not reviews of projects, but maybe like the little exercises that you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's something. Okay, yeah, it feels like an introduction. That's what it feels like right now. I don't know what the pro plan is like. I personally doubt that it gets you much closer to kind of finding that position. But, like getting job ready as a developer isn't this like black and white thing where like you cross this finish line, then you're job ready. It's really like once you get your first project up, you start applying. You see like who bites and get feedback, based on all of that. So this just feels like a really good introduction. Usually I kind of pick on programs, but all of you kind of agreed on everything. It all sounded like similar experiences. I don't think I have anything else to say. So anything that I summarized, do you feel like you disagree with any of it? Would you add anything?
No, sounds pretty spot on. I agree. It's kind of more introductory. Depending on like your background too, that might make a difference. So like if someone worked for like a tech company in like a different type of department or something, they might have more exposure to it and it might come easier, versus if you don't have any exposure to it or background, then it's going to be a little bit harder to get through.
Okay. Sounds pretty realistic. Okay. I think that's it. Overall, yeah, I think that's it. That's all the questions that I have. Does anyone have anything else to add? Nope. All right, cool. Well, I think we summed it up pretty well. Let me know what you think in the comments. And anyone that's currently participating, because I know a lot of people would join the program after I release a video. What I really love is when you post in the comments, you're like, I just started the program. I want to hear how your experience went. So, those that say they're like, oh yeah, I'll update you and then ghost me. I don't want you to ghost me anymore. I want you to like follow up with that comment. Let me know how your experience went, because it's actually really helpful. And people will come back to the actual comment section and they'll bug people. How's your experience over and over? So if you don't want to be bugged, follow up. But yeah, I want to hear about other people's experiences. So that's it. I really appreciate everyone coming on. Let's go ahead and jump into our outros. This is where, Diamond, I know you're an author. It's a really good time to shout it out. But if people want to reach out to you and anything else you want to shout out, where could they reach you, Diamond?
Definitely my LinkedIn, which is just my full name, Diamond Kelley, Kelley. And then my website is called Heavenly Storybook. So check out my books there. Awesome.
How about you, Wanyoung?
Yes, you can also reach me on LinkedIn. And then my personal website is my first name and last name. So Wanyoung, WANYOUNG, KIM.com.
Perfect. Thank you. How about you, Emily?
And then I can also be reached on LinkedIn by my name, Emily, last name Slazyk, SLAZYK. And then also my website is emilyslazyk.dev.
All right, perfect. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.